am the Master Raider, and today we are ranking Jedi. Remember, my ratings are always right, your ratings are always wrong, unless they line up with mine, and then you're right too. All decisions are final until I make the decision to change it. So, let's get into the categories. At the bottom tier, we have Padawan. These are the Jedi that come around and you're like, ugh, why are they here? Like, ugh, no thank you. I don't want to see you again. This is why you're on the Padawan tier. You throw the lightsaber around and I'm just like, no, don't throw it around again. No thank you. Pass. Then we have Service Corps. Service Corps, they're a little higher up than the Padawan tier. You're like, okay, at least you're doing something. It's better than nothing. But also, if you get cut down, I'm like, okay, whatever. Then we have the Knight tier. These are the guys you look at, you're like, that right there's a Jedi. I can see him throwing the Force around here and there, doing a little bit of the motions. Then we have Sentinel. These guys are awesome to watch fight. They are cutting people down left and right, blocking laser beams with their swords, moving heavy objects. These are the guys that are leading the troops into battle. We love to see them fight. And then we have Master, the best of the best Jedi, the coolest of the coolest Jedi. These guys, when you think of Jedi, they're who come to your mind first. And now that we have the rankings, let's get into our Jedi for the day. First up, we have Ahsoka Tano. And Ahsoka I am putting in the Sentinel slot. Why am I doing that? First of all, Ahsoka is a badass. I haven't spent a whole ton of time with the character. I've seen her through the first 3 or 4 seasons of Clone Wars, and yes, I know I need to finish Clone Wars. I just get burnt out of Star Wars. That's a whole different discussion for another day. But Ahsoka's growth, just from the season 1 to season 4, is incredible. She has grown tremendously. I love how they make her stand out immediately with the 2 green sabers. She's holding them to us upside down or backwards. She's dual wielding, which as a Padawan to dual wield, also badass. She has an epic storyline that moves forward. Obviously, I haven't seen all of it, but I know the gist of what happens. She switches over to the white sabers, which those alone are phenomenal. So just with her being a character that gets introduced outside of the movies, to watch her go from what she is now to getting a live action spin-off of her own as an adult, Ahsoka is getting into the Sentinel category. Then we have Anakin Skywalker before he turned into Vader. And Anakin is going into the Master category. I will give it to him, even though everyone else won't. Here's the deal. Anakin got shit done. Was he the most conventional Jedi? No. But sometimes you need that. I think about how by the book a lot of the Jedi are, and I understand that sometimes you have to be by the book, but Anakin had that sense that we need to break away from the book every now and again, and they didn't like him for it, and they didn't trust him with it, and again, eventually that turned into his downward spiral, which gave us the arguably best villain we've seen on a movie screen. But it wasn't all Anakin's fault. But I'm putting Anakin in the Master slot. Then we have Cal Kestis from Jedi Fallen Order. And I played most of the first game. I haven't touched the second game yet. I'm putting Cal into the Knight category. He's an interesting character, a nice little spin-off. You can always throw a Jedi in after Order 66 and be like, they just didn't get killed, which is crazy because you watch episode 3 and you're like, oh my gosh, they killed everybody. How did a Cal Kestis slip under the radar? Obviously, it shows it in the video game, but it's just crazy to think that some of these guys just slipped through, and then the storyline of sending the brothers and the sisters after all the other Jedi that are on the run, phenomenal ideas. But I have Cal Kestis in the Knight slot. Next, we have Kai Adamundi, which that's a mouthful in itself, and just like the mouthful, just like his forehead, there's too much going on. I'm putting him in the Padawan category. I do not like this guy, and I don't know why. I think it's just off of how he looks. He just always looks dumbfounded, which is crazy because his brain should be massive inside that head. I don't know. And he gets annihilated, by the way, in Order 66, just absolutely destroyed. I'm not a fan of Kai Adamundi. Whenever he comes on the screen, I'm like, okay, this guy, whatever. But he sucks. I'm sorry, he sucks. If there's any fans, which there aren't, there are probably 3. He sucks. He's going in the Padawan category. Now we are off to better things, greener pastures. I have Kit Fisto. Kit Fisto is going into the Sentinel category. Look, Kit in the live-action movies, weird-looking alien. They go real deep into the squid-like tendencies. It makes you wonder if Davy Jones from the Pirates of the Caribbean series was based off design-wise Kit Fisto. He wasn't. But it's just, and you just get lost in his eyes and not in a good way. Like, they are just black holes, his eyes. But Kit Fisto is an absolute badass when it comes to Clone Wars. This is what's great about Star Wars The Clone Wars. If you haven't watched, I'm sure a lot of you have. If you're watching this video, it might be a prerequisite for this. Kit Fisto gets the screen time that he deserves, and it's phenomenal. I remember watching the episode that focused solely on him and his Padawan, and bad news if you're his Padawan in this. And Kit handles business. Kit handles business. And I would love to see more of Kit Fisto moving on into the future. So I got Kit Fisto in the Sentinel spot. Then we have Luke Skywalker. And Luke Skywalker, let's see how many Star Wars fanboys I piss off with this. I'm putting Luke Skywalker in the Sentinel spot. Look, Luke is the Redeemer. He brings balance back to the Force, kind of. Technically, it's Vader, but he helps in that process. Luke is all right. Luke's still got them farm boy tendencies in him when he's in there, and you do see the character growth. Weirdly enough, I feel like we need more from Luke. I would have loved to see what happens with Luke after this. We get a little glimpse of it in The Mandalorian when he's training Grogu, which that would have been really cool to see him build the school and have Grogu there and Grogu not leave to go back with the Mandalorian, which again, that's another rabbit hole for another day. But Luke, at the base, all right. But when you think of him and Vader, like, Vader outshines Luke Skywalker by 1.5 miles. It's not close. Even with the dad reveal, it's not close. I'm picking Vader. He's cooler. I don't think anybody has ever been like, oh, dude, Luke Skywalker is so cool. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's not my generation. Maybe that's the generation prior that actually got to see Luke Skywalker on the big screen. I'm still putting him in Sentinel. All right, he's still up there. He's still one of the better Jedi. We just need more. And at this point, I don't really want more of the Skywalkers. And we move on to Mace Windu, who is going into the Master category because Mace Windu is a badass, played by the legendary Sir Samuel L. Jackson. I know he hasn't gotten the Sir because he's not British, but he might as well have it. All right? If you're listening, British royalty, just give the Sir to Samuel L. Jackson because this man earned it, okay? Mace Windu is a badass. I would love to see a series on a younger Mace Windu just going into battle. This guy has his own fighting style. He has his own color of saber. Not everyone has a purple saber. He's the only one that we've seen so far to have the purple saber. He's the one Jedi to figure out how to harness the dark side without falling to it, I believe. I could be wrong. Star Wars nerds, get off my ass. But Mace, is a badass. And it took electricity and a betrayal and getting thrown out a window for Mace to lose. That's an epic way to go. I've got Mace Windu in the Master category. And we are on a heater right now because after that is Obi-Wan Kenobi, my favorite Jedi of all time. He is going into the Master category. It's Obi-freaking-Wan. It's Ewan McGregor. Do I need to say more? I can. I will if you need me to. I don't feel like I have to, though. Obi-Wan is the Jedi that brought fun personality into the mix. I love his interactions with everybody, of course, but especially his role in mentoring Anakin Skywalker. Now, I know he's to blame a little bit because he treated Anakin like a brother and not like a trainee. I still don't blame Obi-Wan for that, though. If anything, blame Qui-Gon Jinn. But Obi-Wan goes in there and cuts Darth Maul in half in Episode 1. Badass. He goes toe-to-toe with Darth Vader, older, when he's been out of the Force for a while, and manages to hold his own. This guy, before Vader became truly Vader, he torched him one-on-one, cut him into pieces, turned him into an absolute cyborg. Do you know what Anakin would be doing if he wasn't mostly machine? Oh my gosh, I don't even want to think about it. Anakin would have been on a tear. You think Vader's a badass the way we saw him. Imagine with no restraints. I think it's happened a couple times in comics, and I think Vader just annihilated everybody. So Obi-Wan managed to handcuff him by taking off his legs and his arms and watching him almost burn to a crisp. It's crazy. But that alone right there, the battle on Mustafar, Episode 3. I don't need to say any more than this. Hello there. Hello there. That right there is iconic enough. Obi-Wan Kenobi, master. Then we have Plo Koon, and Plo Koon is going into the Sentinel category as well. Plo Koon is also a badass. I love the little episodes with him being the main focus on Clone Wars. This is where the prequels messed up. George Lucas did a phenomenal job of introducing a ton of really cool characters, just not having the screen time to build them up. Not all his fault, and that's why Clone Wars comes in and is a great supplement to the prequel trilogy, because Plo Koon, Kit Fisto, you get a little bit more of Yoda fleshed out. Mace Windu, Qui-Gon Jinn, and there's a ton of other Jedi that I'm not naming, but they do a phenomenal job of introducing and showing them to be like, that character looks cool. I want to know more about that character because he looks so dope. And Plo Koon is one of those characters that provides that. I love it when Plo Koon comes on board. He's a very wise figure as a Jedi, as most Jedi tend to be. I've got Plo Koon at the Sentinel slot. Then we have Qui-Gon Jinn, played by the great Liam Neeson. And Qui-Gon Jinn, this is going to get questionable for some people too, is also going into the Sentinel, and I think it's solely because it's played by Liam Neeson. Qui-Gon was a very interesting character, to the point where I also would have liked to see more from him. I think what he does in Episode 1 is perfect, but he was such a wise mentor figure built up in the first one with Obi-Wan Kenobi that it makes you want to see how he got up to that point. And also, he trained freaking Obi-Wan, and mind you, he comes back as a Force ghost to train Obi-Wan some more. And they say if Qui-Gon would have been the one to train Anakin, Anakin probably wouldn't have fallen to the dark side, which is crazy to think about. So I have Qui-Gon Jinn in the Sentinel slot. And now we have Rey Palpatine, or Rey Skywalker, and look, this girl, I'm going to put her into Service Corps, and it's not her fault. This is where the sequels really, really suck the life out of the Star Wars franchise. First of all, Rey, on her own, really cool character. I'll just say that. I would have loved it if they would have never introduced her last name. I think giving her the last name Palpatine takes a lot away. I think her going by Skywalker also takes a lot away from her. She should have just stayed as Rey. Or they come up with a full new last name and they just never explain who her parents are. I think that put a cap on her immediately. They also give her the yellow lightsaber at the end of the 9th movie. If they would have given her the yellow lightsaber on the 8th or at the start of the 9th movie, this makes her stand out as her own character even more. And then you just throw it as a throwaway at the end when she finally gets to make her own saber. I don't like how they just don't really train her. They botch Luke, and we can continue to go down this sequel trilogy, but my whole point is they introduce a lot of cool characters, and they do them zero justice. They do that in the prequels, like we discussed earlier, where they introduce all these characters, but it doesn't take away from the main story. You just don't get enough time. This is, you get enough time with the main cast, and they just don't do anything cool with them, and it's unfortunate. And I don't know what you do with Rey moving forward. I really don't. And I think that's why you just kind of ignore that the sequels aren't there anymore, and that is an absolute bummer. It would be cool if they retconned it somehow, some way, because I like those main three, and just, man, 7 does a solid job at starting it off, and then 8 just drops off, and it's hard. It's hard. So I got Rey in the Service Corps because, she didn't have a fighting chance. She really didn't. Finally, to end it all, we have Yoda, and Yoda's going into the Master category. Are you kidding me? First of all, I have to say this, because I was catching some heat online, because I said, who didn't want a Yoda prequel series when he was younger and tearing people up? And people were like, oh, it was a time of peace. Oh, why would we want to see Yoda tear it up? Oh, he talks like he does in honor of his master. Okay, whatever. You're kidding me though? Did you not watch that fight with him and Palpatine? he was this close to winning the fight against Palpatine. And he probably could have if it wasn't due for shenanigans. But you're telling me you're going to lie to my face that you didn't want to see a young Yoda in his prime? Are you insane? You're lying to me. You're lying to everybody out there. There's no way. And Yoda's like 1,000 years old, okay? They age differently. They age very, very slowly. You're telling me there was peace for 800 of those years? No. There were Sith Lords still running around. You think it was just Sidious back there aging in that 800-year span? No. Sidious wasn't around for that. He had his master and the master before and the master before, and we can keep going down that rabbit hole. But you're not telling me you wouldn't want to see Yoda going up against the old Siths? Stop it. I don't care if it's a time of peace. You're telling me evil was gone? No. The whole point of Star Wars is there's a balance, you dumb nerds. And that's only for the people who don't want to see a young Yoda. If you want to see a young Yoda, you're already with me. Okay, we're having this argument together. We're passionate together. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not even the biggest Star Wars fan, but I want to see that. But let's talk about Yoda in the whole preface of Star Wars. Yoda, in the originals, training Luke to get Luke to the next level so he could take on Vader. Yoda is the key there. He's wise beyond his years, and his abilities with the Force are astounding. Yoda could do a ton, and I think we only got a glimpse of everything that Yoda could do. Then you get Yoda in the prequels, when he's on the High Council, when he's the wisdom of the High Council. The people look to Yoda to make smart decisions. Do you remember when Yoda comes in to fight Dooku a little bit? Oh, dude, that was just a little bit of Yoda, and then you get to see him go all out against Palpatine, which I already brought up, but I'm going to bring it up again because that fight is incredible. Watching Yoda just flipping around all over the place, and you're like, how is Palpatine even keeping up with this guy? And mind you, Yoda is doing backflips and stuff all over the place at 850, 890. Do you know I can't even touch my toes, and I'm late 20s? I can't touch my toes. He's 800 doing backflips and front flips and side flips, and I think he was doing some ice skating moves midair that I couldn't even pick up with my eyeball. Okay, that's Yoda. But for that reason, Yoda is going into the master list. All right, that wraps up this video. If you like these picks or want to make your own picks, check out the comments, like, subscribe, do whatever you want. I don't care. It's up to you at this point. And on that note, Godspeed.